Hello, good morning and good afternoon. Today I have brought a new chapter. It is most famous essay. It is written by Thomas Jefferson. The title of the essay is The Declaration of Independence. It is also called the Unanimous Declaration of Independence. Unanimous 13 States Declaration of Independence. This is another title. And Thomas Jefferson is the third president of USA. He is very good in his style of writing, and he was chosen to write this essay by the entire committee of the Congress and other Benjamin Franklin and other popular politicians. And Thomas Jefferson went on looking each and every word of the essay for 2.5 days, and he decorated it, beautified it, and made it standard, and it has become one of the memorable historical documents in the history of the world today. So let's see some of the ideas why Declaration of Independence was needed to be written and spoken. This is a political speech by Thomas Jefferson. The Declaration of Independence is a political speech written by Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the USA. It is based on as early as 1970, as the British King George III and his ministers used too much power over the 13 original colonies in the United States of America. The colonized people objected to the series of taxes imposed on them by the British Parliament without their political representatives. The British king taxed heavily to the American colonized citizens in 13 states, and there were no any representatives or political representatives of those 13 states, and without their consent, agreement, without their acknowledgement, the colonized citizens were taxed more and more, and it was impossible for them to pay, and it was injustice against the colonized people of USA, of 13 states of USA. The British Parliament amounted a tyranny. Tyranny means a direct dictator, totalitarian, and by 1976 there was a full-fledged war. Full-fledged, there is a typing mistake. This is not ed. Full and then fledged. Please remove this zed. Full-fledged war. This is more. Let's remove this. Alright. This was a war against British King George III. Had England defeated the colonists, if those 13 colonized states had got defeated, and then everyone who signed the Declaration of Independence would have been arrested. Those people who signed this Declaration of Independence, they would have been arrested by the king, charged with treason, and stripped of his property, and perhaps hanged them. But fortunately, the colonizers got the victory, and the England got defeated from this revolution, from this movement. Jefferson's Declaration of Independence challenges the basic assumptions of time, and it became one of the most important political documents in the world history. The British king had made the British colony to the 13 United States of America, and the British colonial government had denied the fundamental rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to the citizens of those 13 colonized states. There are three fundamental rights in American Constitution even today. They are rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these three fundamental rights of let's see, American Constitution, or the natural rights of the human beings were totally not allowed to be exercised by the American citizens of those 13 colonized states. Absolute despotism means tyranny, dictatorship was functioning there. Absolute means complete dictatorship was functioning. Despotism was functioning there in 13 states. And the citizens of the colonies had to give the knowledge to the rest of the world why they revolted. And this declaration of independence became the information and the reason of their right to revolt. This means these 13 colonized states had to give this information to the rest of the world. Why they had to revolt, why they had to do protest against the British King and the George III, right, of Britain. Why it was their right to revolt against the British ministers, British appointed judges and other parliament system that was going on in those 13 states. This is the information to give the rest of the world and to draw the attention of the world to support them, to bring them their support to remove the rule of the British king from Britain. The British king had dissolved the parliament many times against the natural rights and the law of the citizens. The British king was himself the supreme powerful one there in those 13 states, colonized states, and he had dissolved parliament many times against the natural rights and against the law of the citizens. He did whatever he liked. It was against of the British, of the American citizens, of the colonized citizens. He had made the judges dependent on his will, and the amount of the payment of their salaries was in his mouth and his wishes. That means all the judges of the court of those 13 colonized states, the British king had made dependent on him because the salary and the payment and other things, whatever the facilities the judges had to get, depended on the mouth and the wishes of the king. Whatever king wished, that was there for the judges. So the judges also were loyal to the king. They were not able to give the justice to the demand and petition of those colonized citizens, states. There was no law and order of the system to function. The system was not functioning. The law was not functioning. The law was in the words of the king. System was in the hands of the king of Britain. He had erected multitudes of new offices to harass the people of the colonized states. Erected means constructed, made large number of new offices there in those colonized 13 states. Why? Just to harass the people of the colonized states, just to make them helpless, nervous, sad, and unhappy. He had banned the trades of those colonized 13 states outside the world. They did not have the right to have the trade or business outside the world. That was what the king did or banned. The armed troops, armies with weapons, were put to threaten the innocent citizens unnecessarily. Innocent citizens who were scared of the armed troops who were put there by the British King George III. He had taxed them without their consent forcefully. Without their agreement, without their acknowledgement, without their consent of the colonized citizens. The king had taxed them forcefully. The petition means a request of the citizens of those colonized states were answered with injury. They got just injury or the trouble. They were misbehaved, mistreated. They were not answered rightly, properly. The brothers and sisters were compelled, means impelled, forced to raise the arms against their own brothers and sisters. That means those colonized states, citizens were asked to raise the arms against their brothers and sisters. They were put in the mock trials, and they were there was prohibition of migration in those colonized states. In mock trials, many people were taken out of the colonized states and they were out of the country taken by the soldiers. And in the name of trial, they were punished, they were tortured, they were beaten, they were misbehaved, maltreated, and they were behaved as if they were not human beings, but they were as non-human beings or animals. And they were not allowed even the migration from those colonized states. The armed forces, even in peace, without the consent of the legislature, were placed there only to abolish the most valuable laws. See, the forces were there, armed forces were there even in peace. Even though there was no war in those 13 colonized states, even at the time of peace, armed forces were put there without the agreement, consent, acceptance of the legislature, lawmakers, and placed in there only to abolish means to destroy the most valuable laws, valuable laws of human rights, fundamental rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness were to be abolished. They were to be broken. They were to be destroyed, dismantled. It was to end the waging war against them and to get justice, equality, and peace, being independent from the British colonial power. Especially this revolt, this declaration of independence was to end the war, continuous war, waging war against the British king, British ruler, British ministers, and to establish justice, equality, peace, and the better position there in those 13 colonized states. The sorry, exactly, it went right. Okay, the British king, right? See there. Third one. Let's see. Okay, wait a little bit. It has become smaller. Let's see. And then the petitions of the citizens who were colonized of those colonized states were answered in jury. Yes, the armed forces were put there. And then see, and the burning injustice of the British king was beyond tolerance, and the revolt was the only necessary tool to uproot the colonizer and to send back to Britain. It was the only one idea, it was the only one solution. There was nothing except these ideas, this revolt, right? This is the point that British American citizens were doing their activities against the British king. It was not proper to do, right? The ideas of other, let's see, British injustice. British injustice was beyond the concept. British injustice was beyond the trust, beyond the idea, and the American colonized states had to find their own system, their own rules, laws, and trade and business, and they wanted to be free from the British colonized system. This is what the political speech and the independence revolt of in getting independence from the British ruling system. And it was a kind of demand to get the support from the world, and it was a kind of information given to the rest of the world so that the people of the world would support the American citizens who were colonized, who were misbehaved, maltreated, and mistreated, and who were under the injustice of the British King George III. This is the idea. And a little bit I want to talk in Nepali to the students of Sastri. Yes, निबन्धमा डिक्लेरेसन अफ इन्डिपेन्डेन्स भनेर अमेरिकाका 13 वटा स्टेट राज्यमा जुन ब्रिटिश किङ जर्ज थर्डले आफ्नो शासन चलाएका थिए, आफ्नै किसिमको ब्रिटेनले कोलोनी बनाएर शासन गरेको त्यहाँभित्रका जनतालाई कुनै अधिकार नदिएको, लाइफको, लिबर्टीको, फ्रिडमको, पर्सुएट अफ ह्याप्पिनेस भन्ने अमेरिकाको फन्डामेन्टल राइट्सको अधिकार नदिएको, जति बेला त्यहाँको पार्लियामेन्टलाई डिजल्भ गरिदिएको, अनिखेर शान्त भइरहेका बेला पनि ब्रिटेनबाट सेना लगाएर राखेको, त्यहाँका सर्वसाधारणलाई हतोत्साहित गर्न, निराश बनाउनका लागि राखेको, त्यहीँका नागरिकहरूलाई एक आपसमा उचालेर भिड्न लगाएको, लड्न लगाएको, यिनीहरूलाई मक ट्रायल भनेर ट्रायलको लागि यिनीहरू देशद्रोही हुन् भनेर बाहिर लगेर अनि उनीहरूलाई सजाय दिएको, मारिएको, अन्याय अत्याचार गरेको र त्यहीभित्र एक आपसमा बसाइ सर्न नदिएको, उनीहरूलाई बडा कडाभन्दा कडा कर लगाएको, ट्याक्स लगाएको, व्यापार गर्न बाहिर नदिएको, त्यहाँका न्यायाधीशहरूलाई न्याय दिन नदिएर त्यहाँ न्यायाधीशको स्यालेरी, न्यायाधीशको सेवा सुविधा सबै राजाको हातमा, राजाको मुखमा रहेको, जुन ब्रिटिस किङको मुखमा रहेको हुनाले त्यहाँका जनताले कुनै पनि अफिसहरू, ठुला ठुला नयाँ अफिसहरू, आर्मीहरू लगेर त्यहाँ राखेर दुःख कष्ट दिएको हुनाले ती राज्यमा ती राष्ट्रहरूलाई स्वतन्त्र गराउनका लागि 13वटा अमेरिकाका स्टेटहरूलाई स्वतन्त्र गराउनका लागि यो डिक्लरेसन अफ इन्डिपेन्डेन्स भन्ने एउटा पोलिटिकल स्पिच लेखेर सबैबाट साइन गरेर संसारलाई यो जानकारी दिएर हाम्रो पक्षमा सपोर्ट गर्नुहोस्, हामी यसलाई के त यो कोलोनीबाट, कोलोनाइजरबाट, किङबाट मुक्त रहन्छौँ भनेर दिएको इन्फर्मेसन र यही अनुसार उनीहरूले आन्दोलनमा अगाडि बढेका हुन् र त्यति बेला अमेरिकाले संसारको ध्यान आफूतिर खिचेर आफ्नो पक्षमा बोलिदिनुहोस्, ब्रिटेनलाई यहाँबाट हटाइदिनुहोस् भनेर आजको त्यस्तो शक्तिशाली देश पनि हिजो त्यस्तो के त नाजुक अवस्थामा थियो, ब्रिटेनले शासन गरेको थियो, ब्रिटेनले त्यसरी नै अत्याचार गरेको थियो भनेर लेखिएको यो एसे हो र यसमा इन्डिपेन्डेन्स भनेको स्वतन्त्र हुनका लागि जति अभ्यासहरू गरी ती सबै अभ्यासहरू चाहिँ ब्रिटिस नागरिक, अमेरिकन नागरिकको लागि, अमेरिकन जनताको लागि, अमेरिकन त्यो 13वटा राज्यका लागि, अहिले पनि जहाँ न्यू इङ्ल्यान्ड भनेर भनिन्छ, तिनीहरूमा स्वतन्त्रताको लागि, तिनीहरूमा न्यायको लागि, तिनीहरूमा सिस्टमको लागि इस्टाब्लिस गर्नका लागि उनीहरूले गरेको आन्दोलन हो र सबैभन्दा राम्रो लेख्ने जेफरसनले नै लेख्ने हुनाले त्यहाँ अब यो युएसए लेख्दा 2.5 दिनसम्म प्रत्येक शब्द हेरेर उनले यसलाई स्ट्यान्डर्ड बनाएको हुनाले आज पनि संसारको ऐतिहासिक दस्तावेजको रूपमा रहेको छ, हिस्टोरिकल डकुमेन्टको रूपमा रहेको छ र यहाँ केही यसरी मैले स्लाइडहरू ल्याएको छु। यिनी स्लाइडहरूलाई आफ्नो भाषामा यिनीहरूलाई नै एक्जाममा लेख्दा हुन्छ। यो मानव अधिकारको लागि र स्वतन्त्र बन्नका लागि, कोलोनाइज भनेको उपनिवेशबाट, ब्रिटेनको उपनिवेशबाट मुक्त बन्नका लागि अमेरिकन 13वटा राज्यका सम्पूर्ण राज्यहरूले चाहिँ के त सिटिजनहरूले, त्यहाँका मुख्य पार्लियामेन्टहरूले साइन गरेर संसारलाई जानकारी दिएर गरेको आन्दोलन हो। यदि ब्रिटेनले जितेको थियो भने, यदि इङ्ल्यान्डले जितेको थियो भने यो डिक्लरेसनमा साइन गर्ने सम्पूर्णलाई या त एरेस्ट गर्थे, पक्रिन्थे, या त चार्ज गर्थे देशद्रोहीको, ट्रिजन भनेको देशद्रोहीको, स्ट्राइप अफ हिज प्रोपर्टी भनेको सम्पत्तिबाट सबै लगिदिन्थे र अन्तिममा झुन्ड्याउन पनि सक्थे। तर भाग्यवश तिनै अमेरिकी जनताहरूको पक्षमा विजय प्राप्त भयो र ब्रिटेनले हार्नु पर्यो र ब्रिटेन फर्कियो र आज अमेरिका यसरी शक्तिशाली संसारको एउटा स्वतन्त्रताको, प्रजातन्त्रको एउटा वकालत गर्ने राज्यको रूपमा स्थापित भएको छ र कसैले पनि अन्याय अत्याचारको विरुद्धमा लड्नका लागि यसरी नै के त रिभोल्ट गरेर, विद्रोह गरेर, रिभोल्ट भनेको विद्रोह गरेर अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ र आफ्नो अधिकार लिनुपर्छ। अधिकार लिएर खोजेर मात्रै पाइन्छ, त्यसै अर्काले दिँदैन, लडेर मात्र पाइन्छ, अर्काले लैजाउन दिँदैन। जबसम्म ब्रिटेनबाट यसरी नलडेका थिए भने, आन्दोलन नगरेका थिए भने आज पनि ब्रिटेनले त अमेरिकालाई शासनै गरेर आए, सायद अमेरिका नभएर ब्रिटेनले नै अमेरिकाको एउटा स्टेट, एउटा शक्तिशाली राज्यको भूमिका खेलिरहेको हुन सक्थ्यो भन्ने कुरालाई यसरी ल्याएको छ। थुप्रै त्यहाँभित्रका अन्याय अत्याचारहरूलाई कति कुरा टेक्स्टमा पढ्दाखेरि भन्छौँ, त्यहाँभित्रका कुराहरू छुटेका छन्। थुप्रो कुरो अन्याय अत्याचार गरेकोहरू, कस्तो राज्य हुनुपर्छ, कस्तो सरकार हुनुपर्छ, कसरी चलाउनुपर्छ, कस्तो सिस्टम हुनुपर्छ भन्ने सम्पूर्ण कुराहरू यस एसेमा उल्लेख गरिएको छ। In short, this essay has exactly presented the real voice of democracy of the American government from the Declaration of Independence, and it is against a British colonial system, British king, British injustice, British maltreatment, and British misbehavior to the colonized states of citizens of the colonized states. In just this information was given to the rest of the world, so that the whole world's globe's attention would go in the support of the British, in the support of the American citizens, colonized citizens, to get independence and to be free from the injustice and unfair system of the British king in Britain, in America. This is the historical document, political document, and world's greatest document for the person, for the fundamental rights of personal life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which are natural rights, which are inborn right, and that cannot be abandoned, that cannot be abolished by any rulers, is the real message of the essay. And perhaps these points would be meaningful for the students to read and then apply in the exam. Thank you.